Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Do you have any test now?
Monday,
On
we have
28th, we have physiology, sir.
Monday.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Oh, yes.
for the upcoming PTM, do we have any meeting ID and password, sir?
Same only.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
First hour you will be having class. 8 to 9:30 you will be having class. In the after that we have the ID for the classes, routine classes.
Okay,
The
sir.
same
Thank you,
ID,
sir.
same ID.
Thank you.
Sir, this is a conference meeting only, right, sir? All
Madam?
together, all parents. Sir, it's like all together, all parents together meeting only, right?
Yes.
Sir?
Yes. Yes. It's not individual meeting. It's not possibly, no.
Yes, sir. Just question.
All the students and parents, they have to log in that same ID. So we'll be having general discussion only. It's okay. 150, 157 are there.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, I'm Alankrita from MSc, sir. I have a doubt regarding that exam fees, sir.
Hmm.
So actually, we got we got SMS yesterday that we should pay our fees through SRM fee card,
Hmm.
and but in the PDF they have mentioned that in the SRM website there will be a City Union Bank link or ICICI Bank link, sir. So through which we have to pay, sir?
That I will confirm and let you know tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Actually, that circular is there. I have seen only that circular.
Okay, sir. All the MSCs
I
got
have
SMS from SRM, I guess.
from SRMIST.
Yes, sir. Because I got
So,
SMS.
what you want to know is in which portal you have to pay the money.
Yes, sir. Whether through SRM fee card or through what they have mentioned in the PDF, sir.
That is CUB,
Yes, sir.
City Union Bank. Okay.
Yes.
That I'll confirm and let you know tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. What about other MSCs? Priya is there,
Yes, sir.
Priya? Yes, you have
Yes,
got
sir.
that circular, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So I have got the circular only for you.
Okay, sir.
Reopening maybe yet to be finalized, it seems. 12th July. For you people, 12th July. But yet to be confirmed. For other students, 5th July, it seems. Still 165. Previous class was over by around 11:15, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that is the problem. You take much time for joining the meeting. Anyhow, today it's a small class only, so no problem. Suppose if we have more content, what to do? Any other difficulties for you joining in time, or any other difficulties in your online classes? Regarding anatomy. So no problem, huh? So this 28th you have physiology. Then when is biochemistry?
We haven't
Benita?
yet been notified, sir. Yet.
Somebody
Yeah.
told it may be around second week or third week like that.
So
Sir,
we wrote a test on 17th, sir, last week.
usually every month they keep during that.
Middle of the month only.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
What about you? What you tell your opinion? Do you want to give thorax and pelvis together, or pelvis separately, thorax separately?
Sir,
Even
as
some of the topics are there in the abdomen also. Kidney, suprarenal, posterior abdominal wall we have to include with pelvis
sir will give all together, sir. It's
all together.
Sir, it's as you are comfortable, sir.
What class rep? Who are the class reps?
Conduct it next month, then we'll have a little more time to study, or else we won't have time to study.
Next month, that is in July only, definitely not in June. Next month means you are telling July or August?
No, sir, like with this thorax.
Thorax will be over by 17th. 17th July, thorax will be over. Okay. So we can have on 19th.
Sir, if
that
you're
only you
giving
want to
it
confirm.
separately, sir, if you're giving it separately, when will the tentative date be for this test? Approximately.
Suppose only pelvis means.
Yes, sir.
Maybe on 5th. Okay, 171 are there. Okay, we'll start. Okay, so today main topic is development of diaphragm. So before that, I wanted to tell about how that intraembryonic coelom is formed. So already I told about it. So intraembryonic coelom is formed in the lateral plate mesoderm. So that intraembryonic coelom only forms all the body cavities. What I mean, pericardial cavity, pleural cavity, and peritoneal cavity, all are derived from that same intraembryonic coelom. So after the formation of intraembryonic coelom, your intraembryonic mesoderm will be divided into two layers. What is in close relation with ectoderm is called as somatopleuric layer. What you have along with endoderm is called as planktopleuric layer. So that and all I explained in the general embryology itself. Anyhow, today also I will tell about it. So important point, what you have to note, important for your MCQ, intraembryonic coelom, where it is formed. It is formed in the lateral plate mesoderm. Then what are the layers of intraembryonic or lateral plate mesoderm? One is somatopleuric layer, other one is planktopleuric layer. So what is the importance of somatopleuric layer? So that somatopleuric layer gives rise to the parietal wall of your peritoneum. In case of lung, parietal pleura. In case of pericardium, parietal pericardium. Parietal pericardium. So somatopleuric layer forms the parietal layer. Your splachnopleuric layer forms the your visceral layer. So already you know that. What do you mean by parietal layer? What do you mean by visceral layer? So already in the peritoneum you have studied parietal peritoneum and visceral peritoneum. So like that you have parietal pleura in case of lung, parietal pleura and your visceral pleura. So in case of lung, that visceral pleura is called as pulmonary pleura. Then pericardium, parietal pericardium and visceral pericardium. In case of pericardium, the visceral layer is called as epicardium. So these are the parietal and visceral layers in general. So that parietal and visceral layers are derived from the somatopleuric layer and splaghnopleuric layer only. So important point what you have to note, that intraembryonic coelom, how it will look like. So that you have to have little bit imagination. So already I explained what is the dorsal view of embryo. So we are seeing that embryo from above after cutting the amniotic cavity, wall of amniotic cavity. So like that, on the dorsal aspect we will be having amniotic cavity, and the ventral aspect will be having yolk sac. If you cut the wall of amniotic cavity, you can see the embryo from above. That is called as dorsal view of embryo. So what you are seeing here. So this is the dorsal view. See that the amniotic cavity has been cut. So you are able to make out the cut edge of the amnion. So we are seeing that embryo from above. So what you are seeing in blue color is nothing but epiblast. Okay, like that, if you see on the ventral aspect, you will be having hypoblast. So in between the two only, we have the formation of intraembryonic mesoderm. So before the formation of intraembryonic mesoderm, we will be having formation of primitive streak. So primitive streak will be formed by the proliferation of epiblast. So that the cranial end of primitive streak, you will be having formation of a depression that is called as primitive pit. Furthermore, proliferation of epiblast at that level leads to formation of primitive node. Now you will be having a opening in that primitive pit. So through that, the proliferated ectodermal cells or epiblast pass through that, and they are getting accumulated ventral to this ectoderm, at the same time dorsal to the endoderm. So these are all the your intraembryonic mesoderm. So along this direction, we will be having movement of the epiblast and getting accumulated between the ectoderm and endoderm to form our intraembryonic mesoderm. So this point is important. So at the cranial end of the embryo, we have the buccopharyngeal membrane. Yes, students, what way that buccopharyngeal membrane is unique? Anirudh, number 12, Anirudh. Anirudh?
So the ectoderm and endoderm come into direct contact at
Yes,
buccopharyngeal.
ectoderm is in close contact with your endoderm. There won't be intervening mesoderm. So I am telling along this direction, we are having migration of that intraembryonic mesodermal cells, but not at the level of buccopharyngeal membrane as well as cloacal membrane. What is that buccopharyngeal membrane denotes? That is the feature site of which structure?
Mouth.
Mouth.
Mouth, sir.
Yes, very good. Feature oral cavity. That is the feature oral cavity. Cloacal membrane is the feature anal canal. So already we studied about it. So now you see that we have migration of mesodermal cells cranial to the buccopharyngeal membrane also. So these mesodermal cells, what we have cranial to the your buccopharyngeal membrane are called as pericardial bar. So there only we are having development of the heart. So your pericardial bar is the mesodermal cells present cranial to the buccopharyngeal membrane. So now this is the formation of your intraembryonic mesoderm. So already we have studied while discussing about gastrulation. So later on, what happens to that intraembryonic mesoderm? The another picture to explain that. The first picture what you see above is the dorsal view of embryo with intact ectoderm. with intact ectoderm. If you peel that ectoderm, what you are seeing is the mesoderm, intraembryonic mesoderm. So this is the intraembryonic mesoderm. Still ventral to that, you will be having your endoderm. So very nice picture. So the ectoderm has been peeled. So what you are seeing here is the your mesoderm. Now you see this picture. In that mesoderm, already you know that intraembryonic mesoderm is divided into 3. So what you have on either side of notochord or developing neural tube is called as paraxial mesoderm. So these two are called as paraxial mesoderm. Next, intermediate mesoderm or intermediate cell mass. Next, lateral plate mesoderm. So this is your lateral plate mesoderm. So intraembryonic mesoderm is getting divided into paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm or cell mass, and lateral plate mesoderm. So paraxial mesoderm undergoes segmentation to form.
So
Yes,
much.
Areen Isaac.
Yes, sir.
Areen, yes.
So
Your
much.
paraxial mesoderm undergoes segmentation to form what?
So much.
Somites. Very good, very good. So next, what about that intermediate cell mass? Badrinathan? Badrinathan,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Surface
what
ectoderm.
what we are getting from intermediate cell mass?
Surface ectoderm, sir.
So that shows that you don't know anything about embryology. Huh? I don't know whether you know that spelling for embryology.
No, sir.
Intermediate cell mass, I am telling it is part of mesoderm. You are telling that from intermediate cell mass we are getting a surface ectoderm. That means you don't know anything about ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm.
No, sir.
Then how do you say from intermediate cell mass we are getting surface ectoderm?
Oh my God.
Hmm?
No.
Yes, number 25, Bala Gopala Menon.
Yes, sir.
What is derived from intermediate cell mass?
I'm not sure, sir.
Number 30, Bhavani. Number 30, Bhavani. Hello, Bhavani is there or not? Number 31, Bhuvanya.
Sir,
Yes, what
neurogenital
is
system.
very good, urogenital system. Last 2, 3, 4, around 5 classes I have taken urogenital system. When they, at the time also I explained about intermediate cell mass. So that intermediate mesoderm gave rise to urogenital system. Balagopal and Menon is not having any idea. In that case, I don't know what you understood in the development of urogenital system. The other fellow is telling surface ectoderm is coming from intermediate cell mass. If you read like this, it will not be useful for your future. Keep it in mind. So now you see, so you will be having your, so this is the developing neural tube. Once again, dorsal view after peeling the ectoderm. So here you will be having your somites. Then you will be having your intermediate cell mass. So this is intermediate cell mass. Now lateral to that, what we have is the lateral plate mesoderm. So this is the lateral plate mesoderm. In this lateral plate mesoderm, initially you will be having formation of small spaces. So these are all the small spaces formed in the lateral plate mesoderm only. Later on, all these small spaces fuse to form the cavity. So that cavity is the intraembryonic coelom. Intraembryonic coelom or intraembryonic body cavity. Intraembryonic coelom. So now the part of that intraembryonic coelom at the site of pericardial bar is called as pericardial sac. So note that it is a continuous cavity, somewhat U-shaped. So you have a central connecting part on either side, right side and left side, you have that horns. So it is U-shaped or horseshoe-shaped intraembryonic coelom. So this coelom only gives rise to our peritoneal cavity, pleural cavity, and pericardial cavity. They are getting separated after the development of your lung, heart, and abdominal structures. So that is our intraembryonic coelom. The next picture you can see. Now you see all that small spaces are getting fused to form a cavity. So that is called as intraembryonic coelom. So this is the cross section. So now you see that intraembryonic coelom. So outside this embryo only we are having formation of extraembryonic coelom. So that is formed in the extraembryonic mesoderm, otherwise called as chorionic cavity. Chorionic cavity. So that intraembryonic coelom will be in communication with extraembryonic coelom. So there is a nice video that I will explain next to this. Now you see that site of your heart. So that is called as pericardial sac. So the part of intraembryonic coelom in relation with developing heart is called as pericardial sac. Now if you trace it posteriorly, so what you have here is the peritoneum. So now this is the future peritoneum. So this is the future pericardial cavity. So now the part of intraembryonic coelom that is connecting your future pericardium and your future peritoneum is called as pericardio-peritoneal canal. Pericardio-peritoneal. So this part is called as pericardio-peritoneal canal. It is simple. So this part of intraembryonic coelom gives rise to peritoneum. So this part gives rise to pericardium. So what we have in between the two is your pericardio-peritoneal canal. Okay, so pericardial sac, peritoneum, and your pericardio-peritoneal canal. So this is the dorsal view of embryo. If you make a sagittal section, how it will look like, that and all we will see next. So at this stage, what you have to remember is your intraembryonic coelom is formed in the lateral plate mesoderm. So it is horseshoe shaped in the dorsal view of embryo. So it is having pericardial sac and peritoneal sac. In between the two, the part of it is called as pericardio-peritoneal canal. So this is the line diagram given in your book. So this is your intraembryonic coelom. Now we will be having extraembryonic coelom here. So intraembryonic coelom is in connection with extraembryonic coelom. So later on, it will get disconnected during the lateral folding of the embryo. So that I have uploaded that video, lateral folding of embryo. Nicely, you can see that how that intraembryonic coelom is getting disconnected from extraembryonic coelom. So now the another diagram to show that. So this is the dorsal view. So this is the intraembryonic coelom. Now this intraembryonic coelom, so we see here. So it is formed here. Now this is your extraembryonic coelom. So both are in communication in the early stage. So that much is enough. Even if you find it very difficult to understand this, leave it. So in the initial stage, your intraembryonic coelom is in communication with intraembryonic coelom. So that you have to remember that if you thoroughly understand the general embryology, then only you can understand this. So this also already I told. So now once intraembryonic coelom is formed, the intraembryonic mesoderm that is in communication with your ectoderm is called as somatopleuric layer or somatopleur, all are same. Is called a somatopleuric layer of intraembryonic mesoderm. The other layer that is in contact with your endoderm is called as splanchnopleuric layer. Splanchnopleuric layer of intraembryonic mesoderm, or otherwise splanchnopleure. Okay. So now this splanchnopleure, as this body cavity forms your your intraembryonic coelom forms all body cavities. These two, the somatopleuric layer gives rise to parietal layer of that peritoneum, pleura as well as pericardium. This splanchnopleuric layer forms your visceral layer of pericardium, pleura as well as your peritoneum. So already peritoneum is over. So in the next few classes, you are going to learn about lung and heart. So very interesting one. So there you are going to read about your pleura and pericardium. So keep it in mind. These points are important for the MCQ. What is the development of parietal layer and visceral layer? Now see this small video to understand that whatever diagrams I have given is given as video. Common U-shaped intraembryonic coelom. So this is the dorsal view. You are seeing where this is the neural plate. This is the neural groove. So that is the ectoderm. So now we are going to cut to see that cross section. So this is the cross section already I have projected. Ectoderm, endoderm. This is your intraembryonic mesoderm. So this is paraxial mesoderm. This is your intermediate mesoderm. This is your lateral plate mesoderm. See that in the lateral plate mesoderm, you are able to make out the small spaces. So they are the clefts formed in the lateral plate mesoderm. Later on, they fuse to form your intraembryonic coelom. You concentrate only this. This is the formation of neural tube. That is a different topic. So now we are concerned with this formation of intraembryonic coelom only. So see that. So this is the intraembryonic coelom that is formed in the your lateral plate mesoderm. Now you see somatopleuric mesoderm, splanchnopleuric mesoderm, intraembryonic coelom or splanchnopleure. So what you have seen already is the cross section. What you are going to see now is the dorsal view. See that? So these are the clefts what is formed initially in the lateral plate mesoderm. So that is your pericardial bar or cardiogenic area. So now in this, all these clefts are getting fused to form our intraembryonic coelom. So that intraembryonic coelom will be in communication with our extraembryonic coelom. See that intraembryonic coelom has been formed. So to show that your entire part of intraembryonic coelom is in communication with each other. See that? So this part of intraembryonic coelom is called as peritoneal cavity. Nice video to show that intraembryonic coelom is in communication with extraembryonic coelom. See that? This is extraembryonic coelom. What you have here is the intraembryonic coelom. So repeatedly you go through, once it is uploaded, you can understand. Otherwise, I will repeat this. Closely observe. So this is the dorsal view. Cross section, ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So your notochord, developing neural tube, paraxial mesoderm, intermediate cell mass, lateral plate mesoderm in that formation of small spaces. This is the formation of neural tube. These are the neural crest cells. How that margin of neural grooves are getting united to form the your neural tube. So they are the neural crest cells. Somatopleure, splanchnoplure. So in this dorsal view, I want to tell about the parts. That's why I am once again repeating this. These are the spaces getting fused to form the cavity. So this side will be the pericardial, peritoneum. Here pericardial sac. So this part is the your pericardio-peritoneal canal. So peritoneal cavity, pericardio-peritoneal canal, and pericardial sac. So that is your intraembryonic coelom in communication with your extraembryonic coelom, what you have outside. So now this intraembryonic coelom, so the same thing what you have seen here. So this is the lateral plate mesoderm. So same thing, ectoderm, amniotic cavity, endoderm, yolk sac, intraembryonic coelom. So paraxial mesoderm, this is the lateral plate mesoderm. In between the two, your intermediate mesoderm. So in this lateral plate mesoderm, we have formation of your small spaces. In addition to that, see this I will explain in the next classes. Now this is your intraembryonic coelom. So in communication with extraembryonic coelom here. So here we will be having extraembryonic coelom. Now you see this picture is after the lateral folding of the embryo. After that lateral folding, already you know that this part of your yolk sac will form the primitive gut. So this will form the primitive gut. So during the lateral folding of the embryo, these two will fuse. So our intraembryonic coelom is getting separated from extraembryonic coelom. So what you have to remember, even if you don't understand, after the lateral folding of the embryo. So one folding is the cephalocaudal folding. Other folding is your lateral folding. During the lateral folding of the embryo, intraembryonic coelom is getting disconnected from the extraembryonic coelom. So till that time, your intraembryonic coelom is in communication with that extraembryonic coelom. So that only the video is there. So now you see. So this is your developing heart. So this is the pericardial cavity. So as it is getting separated during the lateral folding of the embryo. Now another important point. Now you imagine. So this is the sagittal section of the fetus. Now this is the septum transversum. So what is derived from septum transversum?
Diaphragm, sir.
Very good. Diaphragm. So not entire diaphragm. So the part of diaphragm present in the anterior aspect forms your is developed from the septum transversum. Just to imagine your thorax, abdomen is there. So your anterior part of your diaphragm is derived from septum transversum. So at this stage we have only septum transversum. So only that anterior part of developing diaphragm is there. So immediately behind that, see that. So this is that your peritoneal cavity in communication with your pericardial cavity. So that is called as pericardio-peritoneal canal. Imagine only half of the diaphragm is there. Developing heart and lungs are there on either side. So the posterior part of the diaphragm is not there. So that's why your peritoneal cavity is in communication with your pericardial cavity through pericardio-peritoneal canal. So that only I explained in the previous video. So pericardio-peritoneal canal is part of that intraembryonic coelom present between the pericardial cavity and peritoneal cavity. So that will be behind that your septum transversum. So what you have to understand in this picture, your peritoneal cavity is in communication with your pericardial cavity. So now you know that you have your pericardial sac in relation with the developing heart. On either side, we have your pericardio-peritoneal canal. Behind that, we have our peritoneum. Now the developing lung is protruding into that pericardio-peritoneal canal only. So now your pericardium should be separated from the pleural cavity first. Then from this pleural cavity, your peritoneal cavity should be separated. How they are getting separated only we are going to see next. First, we will see how that your pericardial cavity is getting separated from your future pleural cavity. So now you see that. So this is developing heart. So this is the pericardium at that side. Now this is your pericardio-peritoneal canal. Into that developing lung is projecting. So that pleural cavity is derived from that part of your pericardio-peritoneal canal. Into that your lung is entering. So now this is your pericardio-peritoneal canal. Now this is your pericardium. So it is in communication with each other. Now initially what happens between the developing lung and developing heart, you will be having formation of a fold. That fold is called as pleuropericardial fold. Pleuropericardial fold. In that fold, you will be having a vein called as common cardinal vein. So later I will explain what is it. Then phrenic nerve. So this phrenic nerve and your common cardinal vein are there in that pleuropericardial fold. Later on, what happens? These two fold present on either side, pleuropericardial fold, are getting fused. So that leads to separation of your pericardial cavity from your pericardio-peritoneal canal. That forms our future your pleural cavity. So this part will form the pleural cavity. Now it is pleuropericardial canal only. So by the fusion of these two pleuropericardial fold, your pericardial cavity is getting separated from it. Later on, this develop, as of now you see, so this is your pericardial cavity. The part of pleuropericardial cavity that is going to give, or it is going to give rise to your pleural cavity is behind that developing heart. What about in adult? What is the relation between heart and lung?
So lung is posterior to the heart. Like
Lung
behind.
is posterior here. What about in adult?
Adult also, sir.
Adult also lung is
Lung is
posterior. Your heart
Sir,
is anterior.
Anterior to the heart.
Anterior to the heart.
It is coming anterior, lateral, and posterior also. Your heart is there and the central part.
So it's
Okay,
pitch.
your
Depression
pleura,
and
your
the-
lung will come to the anterior aspect of heart also. Will be covering the anterior part of heart, lateral part, and posterior part also. But initially it is only on the posterior aspect. Later on, during that other pictures, other video, you can understand. So due to the enlargement of the lung, it will come here. The developing lung will come along with the pleural cavity here. Okay. So now what you have to remember in this picture, how that your pleural and pericardial cavity are separated by the formation of pleuropericardial fold. Pleuropericardial fold, both are getting fused. Because of that fusion, your pericardial cavity is getting separated from this future pleural cavity. So that much is enough for you. So now you see, So this is developing lung getting enlarged. Now you see it is coming to the anterior aspect also. So the lung is anterior, lateral as well as posterior. So developing lung, enlarging lung come to the anterior aspect also. But initially it is on the dorsal aspect. Now you see that. So these two folds are getting approached and they are getting fused. So here they are fused. So now pericardial cavity is separated from pleural cavity. So I will show one more video also, then easily you can understand that. See that how that pericardial and pleural cavities are getting separated. So sagittal view, now you see this is that horizontal intraembryonic coelom. So this is the level of pericardial sac. So here we have that pleuroperitoneal canal next to your peritoneum. The same picture you will be getting. Okay. So this is very nice video to show that initially your extraembryonic coelom is in communication with your intraembryonic coelom. I could not pass it. I don't know what to do. Okay, so now this part is the peritoneum. This part is the pericardium. In between the two, what you have is the your pericardio-peritoneal canal. So this is that video to show that how that intraembryonic coelom is getting separated from the extraembryonic coelom. So very nice picture. Already we have that same model also here. So that is for lateral folding of the embryo. So now paraxial mesoderm, intermediate cell mass, lateral plate mesoderm. So this is the lateral plate mesoderm. So where we have the formation of intraembryonic coelom. So this is the intraembryonic coelom. Outside what we have is the extraembryonic coelom. So this is the connection. Intraembryonic coelom in communication with extraembryonic coelom. Now because of this lateral folding, completely it is getting folded. So you will be having connection of these two leading to separation of your intraembryonic coelom from extraembryonic coelom. See that? So now this is intraembryonic coelom. Outside what we have is the extraembryonic coelom. At one stage it is getting separated. Now you see this. This is important to understand that. So peritoneum, peritoneal canal. Now this is your pericardial sac. So this is developing heart. Developing heart will enter into this. Okay. So now this is pericardium. This is pleuroperitoneal. So this part of pleuroperitoneal canal only forms your pleura. The separation of pericardial cavity from pleural cavity. Pericardial cavity. So developing heart. See that? So this is the pericardium. So this is the pleura. How that developing lung. So this is the fusion of your pleuropericardial folds. See that how the developing lung comes to the anterior aspect also. So by the fusion of your pleuropericardial fold, pericardial cavity is completely getting separated from the pleural cavity. Once again, see that. So this part of pleuropericardial cavity only forms pleura. Now this is pericardial cavity and the anterior aspect. Behind that we have that pleuroperitoneal canal. So that part of pleuroperitoneal canal is getting, this part only getting converted into pleural cavity. So this part should be separated from this. That is by the formation of pleuropericardial fold. Pleuropericardial fold is formed here. So because of the fusion of the two, your pericardial cavity is getting separated from this pleural cavity. So this is the future pleural cavity. So while seeing about the development of diaphragm, we will see how that pleural cavity is getting separated from peritoneal cavity. So what we are seeing now is how that future pleural cavity is getting separated from pericardial cavity. Try to understand through the videos, it will be easy. Otherwise, you leave it. Whatever points I am telling, that much is enough for you in UG level. But for Priya, it will be important. That is the intraembryonic coelom. So during the formation of your lateral folding, this is intraembryonic coelom. Outside what we have is the extraembryonic coelom. So this is the communication between the two. So after this fusion, your intraembryonic coelom will be completely separated from the extraembryonic coelom. One common question, how that extraembryonic coelom is getting obliterated? Try to find out. So this part of pericardio-peritoneal canal. So this part of that pericardio-peritoneal canal forms your pleural cavity. So this is your pericardial cavity. So this part will form the pleura. Here already we have that pericardial cavity. How that pericardial cavity in communication with your future pleura is getting separated by the formation of pleuropericardial folds. That you have to remember. You may get in MCQs. Pleuropericardial. That words will be confusing you. Pleuropericardial, pleuroperitoneal, pericardio-peritoneal. So please allot some time, understand and read if you want to read. Yes. So original lung is on the dorsal aspect. Due to that, so this is the fusion of pleuropericardial fold for separation. See that how that lung is coming to the anterior aspect. Now this is the pleural cavity. This is your pericardial cavity. So nice video. So later on you go through. That's what your pericardial and pleural cavities are getting separated. So now the development of diaphragm. So the major part of diaphragm, that is derived from your septum transversum. Already you know that what is septum transversum. So that is nothing but your mesoderm present at the cranial end of the embryo before cephalocaudal folding. So these are all the things involved in the development of diaphragm. Septum transversum, pleuroperitoneal membranes, pleuroperitoneal, similar to pleuropericardial folds. Here we'll be having formation of pleuroperitoneal membranes. Next, dorsal mesentery of esophagus. Next, the growth of lung you have seen now. How the growth of lung erodes the body wall. So the periphery of the diaphragm is formed by the ingrowth of lung into the body wall. Ingrowth of lung into the body wall. So these are all the factors involved in the development of diaphragm. Septum transversum, pleuroperitoneal membranes, dorsal mesentery of esophagus, and growth of body wall due to the enlargement of the your lung. So this much if you know, that much is enough. Septum transversum, what is it? Already you know. original position, how it comes to the cervical level, then comes to that original level. We will see in the video. Nice video is there. Next, not only your septum transversum is involved in the development of your diaphragm, the other things also involved. They are pleuroperitoneal membranes, dorsal mesentery of esophagus. So that is important. Now you see, this is the septum transversum. So any other structure is developed from septum transversum? Already you told diaphragm. Any other structure? What, Pranav?
Eccentrics,
Yes, sir.
Pardon? Yes, yes.
ventral mesentery.
Ventral mesentery. Ventral mesentery is attached to septum transversum. What is passing through the septum transversum and reaches passing through the ventral mesogastrium and enters the septum transversum, where it is getting divided to form final structure. Very good. Ventral mesogastrium, it's good. How it is getting divided into lesser omentum and falciform ligament? What is passing through that? The hepatic diverticulum. Hepatic diverticulum is entering into the septum transversum. There only it is getting divided into two. So another main contribution of the development of liver, your septum transversum is also involved. So not only diaphragm, your liver also developed from the septum transversum. Next, above that, later on you are going to read in gross anatomy. While reading about the heart, you are going to read about pericardium. So there we are going to read about fibrous pericardium. So base of the fibrous pericardium is attached to the central tendon of the diaphragm. You can't separate that central tendon of your base of that fibrous pericardium from the central tendon. The reason is that base of the fibrous pericardium is also derived from septum transversum. So already I explained, in septum transversum it is getting divided, then it is getting separated from the septum transversum, except the part of bare area and all I told. So once the liver is developed in the septum transversum, it is getting separated from the septum transversum except the site of bare area. Now you can recollect it. So now you see that this septum transversum that is giving rise to the anterior part of diaphragm, originally it is in the cranial position, then it comes down during the cephalocaudal folding. During the cephalocaudal folding, it comes down. Yes, it is here now, below the developing your heart. So originally it is in the cranial position. That's why I told about the nerve supply also. What are now supplying your diaphragm?
Phrenic nerves.
Phrenic nerve. What is the root value for the phrenic nerve?
C3, C4, and C5.
C5, C6.
C3, C4, C5. So the original position of diaphragm, it is between thorax and abdomen, but the nerve supply is coming from cervical plexus. So this is the reason. During development, it is the cranial most position. After the cephalocaudal folding also, first it comes to cervical position, then only it comes down due to the development of heart and lung. Now this is the septum transversum. So very nicely it is given. So after cephalocaudal folding only it is coming down. Now you see this picture. So this is the developing diaphragm. See that? So this is your septum transversum. Now you see here we have a space. So that is nothing but part of pericardio-peritoneal canal. So already I told, immediately behind the anterior part of diaphragm, nothing is there. That's why the peritoneal cavity is in communication with the peritoneal cavity through pericardio-peritoneal canal. So the pericardio-peritoneal canal is there behind the septum transversum on either side. Now you see here you have another structure. So that is the fold of peritoneum supporting the esophagus. Okay. So already you know that what are the openings present in diaphragm, isn't it? What are the major openings of diaphragm?
Esophageal opening.
In inferior vena cava,
Esophageal
esophageal opening, and aortic
and
opening.
aortic.
Yes, you see here. So this is aortic opening. This is aorta. This is your esophagus. This is your IVs. Now, immediately behind the septum transversum, you have the open communication between the peritoneum and pericardium. So that communication, what you have seen in the previous video, it is a continuous cavity only. So now this pericardio-peritoneal canal is there on either side. Now this esophagus is supported by a peritoneal fold. That fold, peritoneal fold, is called as dorsal mesentery of esophagus. Dorsal mesentery of esophagus. Now you see what happens. This pleuroperitoneal canal is getting closed. How? So here we have formation of a fold that is called as pleuroperitoneal fold. Pleuroperitoneal fold. Remember that? Pleuroperitoneal fold. So this pleuroperitoneal fold present on either side of your dorsal mesentery of esophagus is getting enlarged to fuse with this dorsal mesentery of esophagus. At the same time, that will fuse with septum transversum also. Now you see, here you see the completely formed your diaphragm. So the septum transversum forms the anterior part. Behind that, we have that connecting pericardio-peritoneal canal. So that pericardio-peritoneal canal is closed by the formation of pleuroperitoneal fold or pleuroperitoneal membrane. So by the complete fusion of this pleuroperitoneal membrane with the dorsal mesentery of esophagus and septum transversum leads to complete formation of diaphragm and the same time separation of your peritoneal cavity from pleural cavity. So the fold dividing that peritoneal cavity and pleural cavity is the pleuroperitoneal fold or membrane. The fold that separates your pericardial cavity and pleural cavity is the pleuropericardial fold. Pleuropericardial fold, that you have to remember. So now we have that complete diaphragm. So this is that view of diaphragm you are seeing from below. You are seeing from below, from the abdominal side, you are seeing the developing diaphragm. Now what happens during, already you have seen the enlargement of the lung is eroding into the body wall also. Because of that, the muscle fibers are added to the your peripheral part of your diaphragm. So that is called as ingrowth of body wall due to the enlargement of the lung. All these four components fuse to form your final diaphragm. So this is that. So the lung is getting enlarged, burrowing into the body wall. So that leads to the muscle fibers present in this body wall come to the diaphragm. So this is developing heart, lung. So this is the diaphragm. So the peripheral part of that diaphragm is formed by the burrowing of the body wall by the developing lung. So that is the another contribution for the development of your diaphragm. Now you see final diaphragm we are seeing. So this part of diaphragm, central tendon, is derived from septum transversum. Next, this small part is derived from your this part. So what is these two structures of diaphragm called as?
Crux of diaphragm.
This and this.
Crux of diaphragm.
Ah, yes, very good. That crus, plural is crura. So that crus is derived from dorsal mesentery of esophagus. So dorsal mesentery of esophagus forms your crura of the diaphragm. So pleuroperitoneal fold and membrane forms this small part of your diaphragm. Next, the ingrowth of body wall in the peripheral part. So this is the development of your diaphragm. So always if you have fusion of these one or two structures, always the defect will be there. So that only leads to congenital diaphragmatic hernia. Congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So for summary, central tendon of diaphragm is derived from septum transversum. Small peripheral part is derived from pleuroperitoneal membrane. Peripheral part is derived from mesoderm of the lateral wall by burrowing of your body wall by the developing lung. Right and left crest of the diaphragm derived from dorsal mesentery of esophagus. So if you remember these four things, that much is enough for you. You are not going to get that these questions as a short notes, but in MCQ you can have, or sometimes if you get the diaphragm as essay question, add a note on its development. So simply you can type septum transversum, pleuroperitoneal membrane, dorsal mesentery of esophagus. If you write these three, that will do. So you can add that in growth of body wall also. Now you see the small video. After that, we have that real congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So I have seen when I was working in Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences, Kochi. So that picture I have, that I will show. So septum transversum, pleuroperitoneal canal. So this is the dorsal mesentery of esophagus. So all are getting fused to form your diaphragm. Pleuroperitoneal canal. Yes. How that septum transversum and your pleuroperitoneal membrane are getting fused to form the diaphragm. Yes. So this part is formed by the body wall. So crest from dorsal mesentery, central tendon from your septum transversum. This part is derived from by the fusion of pleuroperitoneal membranes. How that descent of diaphragm takes place from the cervical region to the down, that you can understand from this level. From this video. See that? So this is the original position. It is at the cervical level only. It has to come down to this level. That is due to the growth of posterior aspect of your body wall. At the same time, due to the development of your enlargement of developing heart and lung, leads to coming down of your diaphragm to the original level. See that. So this is the your descent of the diaphragm. So descent are not much enough, but not much important for you. So congenital diaphragmatic hernia. See this picture. So you have a defect on the left side. So this is due to failure of fusion of your left pleuroperitoneal membrane with your central tendon. So this defect is always on the posterior and lateral aspect of diaphragm. So through that you see abdominal structures are entering inside. So this congenital diaphragmatic hernia is always on the left side. The reason is the left side pleuroperitoneal membrane is somewhat larger when compared to right side. As it is larger, it takes some time to fuse with central tendon as well as dorsal mesentery of esophagus. That's why there may be the chances for the non-fusion of your left pleuroperitoneal membrane with your septum transversum as well as dorsal mesentery of esophagus, leading to your congenital hernia. So if your large EC, here you are able to make out that large intestine is entering into the thorax, compressing the lung, leading to your degeneration of lung. So the lung will be hypoplastic here. So this will affect the development of your lung. So that is the congenital diaphragmatic hernia, otherwise called as Bochtelag hernia. So this is the another variation of that congenital diaphragmatic hernia. It is called as eventration of diaphragm. So here you won't get that actual hernia. See that your thin membrane of diaphragm is projecting up. Okay, so here the defect is failure of formation of muscle fibers, failure of formation of muscle fibers in the diaphragm. So the diaphragm will present as a membrane only. So as it is present as a membrane, the abdominal organ may project into the thorax. So this is not that much severe. You see that. So membranous diaphragm you are able to make out. Through that your intestine is entering inside. So this is called as eventration of diaphragm. If you see the real picture, you can understand that. See that. So this is when I was working there at the Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences. We have done one study of congenital diaphragmatic hernia. In 3 fetuses, we have seen that. So Madam is the HOD, Dr. Krishnamma was at that time there. See that. So this is the defect, posterolateral defect. Through that you see, you are not seeing any small intestine here. Everything is there in the thoracic cavity. So this is one baby. The other one you see, you are able to make out the small intestine. So compressing your lung. So this one is, you see that here we have pushed with forceps. So this is eventration of diaphragm. See that? So this part of diaphragm is present as a membrane. So in that case, it will project, abdominal organ will project into the thorax. So you may not get real hernia. So that is important. So this is the eventration of diaphragm. See that? So this is diaphragm we have separated and reflected. So that is present as a membrane only. So that leads to eventration of diaphragm. Eventration is different. Your congenital diaphragmatic hernia is different. So here the defect is there. Through the defect, abdominal contents are entering inside. So we don't get any covering here. But in eventration, we have a covering, that membranous diaphragm is there. So as it is weak, membrane-like, the abdominal organs are projecting into the thoracic cavity. So that is called as eventration of diaphragm. So that concludes the development of diaphragm as well as your body cavities. So actually today's class is only development of diaphragm. So as it is a very small topic, I have included that development of body cavities also. So it is not that much important for you. So that interesting one. So that continuous canal, peritoneum, pericardioperitoneal canal and pericardial cavity, it is a continuous canal. How it is getting separated, how the lung is entering into it, how that heart is entering into it is important. How it is getting separated. So that is important. That's why if you know it is well and good. That's why I have included that part also here. So that concludes the development of diaphragm. Of course, your abdominal organs also. From next embryology class onwards, we will see about the development of lung as well as heart. Both are very important for you. Okay, thank you. Anything you do want to clarify?
So, these fetuses with these hello, so these fetuses with these diaphragmatic hernias, they won't survive, sir.
Yes. Nowadays, if we are diagnosing through ultrasound, you know, if it is very severe enough, like entire content of abdomen is inside, means we can't do anything. So if in mild cases, sometimes they are doing surgery through antenatal, even during antenatal period also it's possible, but not in India. In other countries, they are going for repair, but here we are not doing that. Mild cases are there, means in severe cases, they are going for abortion only. Mild cases in foreign countries, they are doing repair. Anything else? In that case, I will end the meeting. So tomorrow we will
Sir?
meet in that PTM. Yes.
Regarding the test, sir,
Hmm.
if it is plus 2 tests, I think it will be easier for us to revise.
Fine. In that case, so 28 you have physiology.
Yes, sir.
In that case, possible time is only 5th. It's enough. 1 week time you have. You are going to read about only pelvis and your kidney, suprarenal, lumbar plexus. Yes, that much only.
Histology and embryology also be there.
Yes, small part will be included. Corresponding part will be included. So whatever taken during that period, we can include.
Sir,
Yes.
can we have it on the 8th, sir?
Yes,
On
sir.
the following Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Sir, on Thursday.
Okay, no problem. So 8, you want to have pelvis with the remaining abdomen.
Yes, sir.
What about thorax?
Thorax, can we have it towards the end of July, sir, if that's possible?
So can we have on 26th?
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
26th
Yes, sir.
July.
Yes,
So
sir.
the portions
sir.
will be over by 17th. So 1 week you will be having your head and neck classes. At the time you can give your thorax test. But the thorax will be very easy for you. If you compare your pelvis, thorax will be very easy. Even you can give your test if you continuously read. You can give the test on 19th also, but no problem. But 26th you can have your thorax. So 8 abdomen and pelvis, isn't it? Remaining part of abdomen and pelvis.
Yes.
So 26 thorax. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
No problem. You decide and tell. I will confirm it. But you have to do well. The poor performance, please. You have to do well. So the remaining test, if you do well only, you will become eligible for the exam. That you keep it in mind. We have some of the students, they are having very less marks. IAS, number 75, IAS is there. IAS Mohammed. Number 75. Yes, Muhammad IAS. Muhammad. Any other Muhammad is there?
Yes, sir.
You are Muhammad?
Ibrahim, sir.
Ibrahim.
76. Yes, sir.
What happened to him?
I don't know, sir. It's not answering.
You are from which place?
Chennai, sir. Mylapore.
Chennai. Okay. But he was staying at Chennai only in the beginning.
Yes, sir. He is staying in Mannadi.
Okay, we'll see. So poor performance, please try to improve your marks. Then only it will be easy for you as well as for us also to finalize the internal assessment. Okay. Okay, thank you. We will leave now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So,
Yes.
sir, regarding the LMS, I had a query. Sir, my LMS doesn't work most of the time, so that's why
But tomorrow discussion will be there. At the time you can tell Dean or your associate Dean. Already you have given the feedback. Yesterday he was telling about it. They are planning for a separate server for our SRM. If they get it, everything will be rectified.
And sir, you were saying about college reopening, sir.
It may be on 12th for you. Maybe. Yet to be finalized. Today I heard through Associate Dean. but yet to be finalized, it seems. But
Okay,
what
sir.
about vaccine? Have you all had vaccine?
Sir, I have had the vaccine, sir.
What
No,
about
sir.
others?
First dose also.
First dose over. Covishield or Covaxin?
Sir,
Shield, sir.
Shield.
Covaxin.
Whatever it may be, okay, you have the second dose also. So I don't know what they are going to decide. We don't know. They have to discuss with Pro VC Medical and to finalize it. It may be. Okay. So tomorrow you can confirm. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.